Well, here we are. We're in my Vexus, and we're going to do a 2-year review and a walkthrough of this thing. So just to get off the bat, I have had some issues, but we'll get to that here in a little bit, and we'll start out with a walkthrough. So nothing like just starting right here at the front, and we'll get to it. So up here at the front, I've got a Ghost, and this is the Ghost that we had on the Triton, and we installed that on the Triton, and then when we bought the Vexus, we just had them put it on there. And then we've got 2 graphs up front. We've got a Lowrance Live 9 and 10 Pro. And my active target box, well, it's mounted right underneath the pedal there. Underneath, you have to take that tray out, and the box is under there, and it's got a connector up there. They've wired in some 10-gauge wire up to the front to a bus, and that's where it's at. Now for my box, I've got a switch right here, and I can cut that thing on and off, and sometimes I fish with it and sometimes I don't. But on the Vexuses, you got to trim up and down, and then you can turn your nav lights on. And you're also, right here, you've got your navigation lights that are built in, so you don't have to put those things in. So the Ghost, it's going on a couple years old, and I haven't had any issues with it. Still seems to work pretty well. It just needs to be calibrated every now and then, and I think that does a lot of the problems that people have with it, you know, not staying put or moving around or whatnot when it's anchored. So just calibrate those things and every now and then, and you should be good to go. So here's the view looking at from the bow to the back. I've got my front seat in here. It sticks sometimes. So on these seats, sometimes if they stick, I think if you just twist them a little bit, it seems to get it'll get them unstuck there sometimes, if you can do that. Another thing I did on this seat is down here is I just took some 1000 grit wet sandpaper, and I just sanded that around it and kind of smoothed it up a little bit, and it took a little bit off, and I think that helps it from keeping sticking too. Now one thing about these pedestals is, this thing right here, is I don't think there's a drain in there, and if it rains, there'll be water collect down in the bottom of this. So when I'm not using my seat, I got a couple of these plugs right here, and they just fit in there kind of like that. And sometimes you got to use a screwdriver or something to get that thing out, but it just pops in and out, and that helps keep the water out of there. So if you don't have one of these, I think I got these from Bob's Machine Shop, but there's other people that make them too. But get you a couple of those and keep that thing from filling up with water. And also plastic worms and everything else seem to end up down in there too. All right, moving on back, we'll just start here in the center compartment. And there's my center box. I keep it pretty full. That's my tackle store. I don't know, we might go through that sometime if y'all want to, but this right here, I had to get another punch pole because my other one wouldn't fit in here. It's a little too long. But this one, I just keep up in the rod tube there, and that seems to house that thing pretty nice. Over here in this front starboard container, I just keep a bag, rain suit, bumpers, rope, I don't know, whatever that might need to go for the day, I just stick it down in here. Now right behind that box is a little cooler, and it seems to do all right. I do wish that they would have insulated this up here, and I think I'm going to do that at some point, just get some closed foam insulation and stick on this thing right here so that it'll, you know, have a little bit of insulation. But otherwise, I just use these ice things right here, and seems to keep your drinks cold. I mean, that water, that's pretty cold. And I don't know, it's just what I do. Now, if it's the middle of summer, I might throw a bag of ice in there. So, you know, always, you know, when it's 90 degrees out, sometimes you got to put an extra bag in there. So I said I had some issues with my boat, and we're still going to talk about that here in a minute. But the bottom line is I had to have a hull replaced, and it wasn't because it split, but it was for something else, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But when they replaced the hull, I asked them to do something. And if y'all ever have a boat that's got the rod tubes in them and you have to have your hull replaced, you might ask them to do this. So what I had them do is, I don't have any rod tubes in there, and not having the rod tubes makes a world of difference of putting rods in there. I think I may have 20 rods in here right now, and they go in, they come out. I've got rod socks on them, so you know it doesn't get too tangled up too bad. They go in, they come out, and it's a whole lot easier, because I just about broke a few guides on some of those one time with the rod tubes. I never did really like them. I was going to take them out, but when they replaced the hull, I asked them to fix that. So right here in the middle is a little step-up box, and what I do is I just keep miscellaneous whatnot. What I do is I just keep miscellaneous whatnot stuff. I've got a scale and got some glue and markers and other plug knockers in there, and then I just keep some garbage in there. You know, as the day goes on, I'll put that in there just to keep it out of the way. And then right here I just keep a pair of clippers, scissors, and a pair of pliers. And that's really all I keep in that little box. Now, I really haven't fished in this hole a whole lot in the rain, so I can't really tell or not, but the other hole I had, that box would stay wet. If it rained, it would stay wet, but I think they redesigned it a little bit, and I think there's a little bit of a gap underneath the bottom of it. I don't think it goes straight to the floor anymore, so I think they changed that so at least water will run underneath it and not run into it. So here's the console, passenger, driver seat, pretty standard seats. There's nothing too special about them. I don't know if y'all know or not, but they do kind of flip up, and you can get junk and whatnot from underneath them. You can't put anything underneath it, but at least you can get stuff out. Here in the middle, I just keep day stuff. You know, I've got my sunglasses, phone, got my wallet, keys in there, stuff like that. Keep my GoPro or my chest harness in there, whatnot, stuff like that. So here on the driver's seat, it is on the slide right here. I'm not gonna mess with it because I've got it where I like it, and I don't want to move it. But I do one thing here is I've got it pushed up far enough that I can take my net and slide it in there, and it just stays out of the way. That's pretty cool. I kind of like that. I've got a hot foot. So here at the console, steering wheel, got a jack plate. I've got a hydraulic jack plate, and that controls there. Trim. I've got a Lowrance HDS 9 Pro here. Got one of my cameras mounted right there. Got it mounted on this ram deal, and so how I have that mounted is I've got a ram ball right here that I just turned one of these screws around, and I got a 1/4 screw, stuck it in there, put that ram ball on there, and then I've just got my mount on there, kind of like that. It works pretty good. I have no complaints. Once I got the ram ball in there, it doesn't move around any, so it does pretty good. So one of the things I do like about the Vexus is the switches. They're just simple. You just, you want to do your horn, you just flip that thing, and accessories, live well, bilge, all that. It does have an automatic bilge in it too, down in there, so it works that way too. So if it gets a lot of water in there, if it's raining or you take a wave over the front, it will pump it out for you. So here's one thing about the console is when it's dark, they're lit up. You can tell which ones are on and which ones are off. The other thing here is the live well controls. We did a video on that, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's not real intuitive on how to use the thing, but it does work. And then there's a 12 volt. Then there's a 12 volt deal here, and a USB deal there if you need that to charge your phone, or you can even plug your cameras up into it if you want to. So over here on the gauges, it's pretty standard. You got water pressure, trim, RPMs. I've got a jack plate for my Atlas jack plate right there. Over here on the other side is the speedometer. It doesn't work. It's plugged up with something. It hasn't worked hardly at all. And then your fuel gauge. Now there's one thing that I really just absolutely don't like about this boat is why they put the fuel gauge right underneath your key. Why don't they swap those? Because you can see the key is right over top of your fuel gauge. It makes it hard to see how you go. You got to move that key around to see how much gas you got, but it ain't that real big deal. But they could swap those things and make that a whole lot better. All right, so one thing on my graph I have, if I come right here and I go to this instrument thing and I turn the key on, I have all my engine data here. So I've got my alternator, engine hours, engine temperature, oil PSI. If I'm moving, the depth will come up, miles per hour, and how much fuel I'm using per hour, RPMs, and that stuff. Having all that right on your graph is right handy. And what I have is a, what's it called? It's called a Mercury SmartCraft Gateway. And it just runs from the engine. It comes up to the front, it hooks into the NEMA 2000 network, and then that goes right into the graph. So I've got all that engine data right there, and that's real handy, especially running down the lake. Because right here, I have my RPMs, and then right above that, I also have what my engine temperature is. And having that engine temperature sometimes can be real good. Let me cut this thing off. Because I was down on Dale Hollow one time and sucked something up in the Triton, and I wasn't getting, it stuck the thermostats opened, and that's kind of a Mercury thing. If you've owned one a while, you've probably had that happen. But if you run it cold like that, you can risk blowing the thing up. So having all that right there that you can look at going down the lake is right handy. Coming back here is just the live well. There's one side. There's the other. It's kind of dirty. I will say it's got this little divider in it. If you got a real big fish, you can take that thing out in there. So this is your pump in and pump out deal. Right here's your pump in and your pump out right here. Go watch the live well video, how to work that thing. Over here in the back box, I usually just keep this one empty when somebody's going to fish with me. Otherwise, I just throw my camera bag, and I've got a few crappie baits in there today. I was trying to catch a few of them, but no luck on them. Anyways, over here on the other side, I don't keep a lot in here. I've got my throw cushion, I've got a jacket, some rope, little toolbox, I don't know, jump starter, whatever else is in here. Not much. First aid kit, got a spotlight, jump box, got some toilet paper because you just never know when that's going to happen. Need to go. But other than that, that's about all I keep in there. May throw a jacket or something in there too, if I need to. Got another one of these right here in the back one. And I will show you this. Reach around in here. Push that thing out. I don't know if you notice, if you can see my hand down in there. But that one goes straight into the bilge. So, you know, got water or whatever running down in there, it'll go right down into the bilge. So I just keep this thing and stick it down in there just to keep stuff from going down in there too. So back in the bilge, it's kind of standard. Got a 31 AGM starting battery, Pro Guide. Got two Pro Guide 31 group trolling motor batteries, a dual Pro charger, and so all that's kind of standard you get when you get a Vexus. So one thing I have had done extra is this right here is the standard breaker that comes, and that goes up to your lights and your bilge and all that stuff is running through that. Your live well, all that stuff. These two right here, one of these goes to the bow, one goes to the console, and it's 10 gauge wire. It runs down there. That way I've got clean power going to the graphs and to the active target. I've also got a master switch that cuts it all off. This is the Atlas jack plate relays. And then this is something they added when it went back to the factory to help the issue I was having. I don't know if it really helped or not, but you're supposed to have one of those. It's a one-way valve for your bilge pump or live well. I can't remember which one it is, but it keeps water from backflowing down into the bilge. So one thing you'll notice here is I don't have any transducer hole right there. That's one thing I had them do when they redone my hole. Have my transducers go over the back of the transom. So here they are. Here's one of them, and here's the other. This is the jack plate relay right here, and then back here I've got one of these extender ladders. I don't have the normal ladder that comes on it. And the other thing is I've just got a regular drain plug in mine. I don't have the remote. The remote drain plug would be right here in this spot. I don't have that either. So one other thing I have here is I have these deals right here, and I've got 4 of them. Got one there, got one there, got one back on in the back on the port side, and then one right over there on the starboard side. So what those are blacklight plugs, and I had the dealer do that when I first bought the boat. And those things are they're wired into the accessory switch. So when I want to use them, I just flip the accessory switch and they turn on. And I just plug the blacklight into them and we go night fishing. So here's the blacklight plug. All you do is you just pull that little thing out there. There's a little jack there. And you just take your blacklight, stick it in there, and turn it on. You flip the accessory switch over there, and here's what it looks like with the lights out. It works. It's not bad. Does a real good job for eliminating your line while you're night fishing. So here's one thing I couldn't show you out on the lake since it was daylight, but I do have the light kit in. So you get all your boxes. The cooler for some reason doesn't have one. There's a light underneath the console, which helps. There's a little light in the step-up box. There's not one in the coin box. The rear compartment is lit up. The side boxes are lit up. And the live well has this nice little blue light in it. So I don't know if y'all can see me or not, but you know, that's handy if you're fishing at night or first thing in the morning if you need to get something together, is it a light kit. So you're probably sitting there going, what in the world is going on with your boat if it didn't split and you had a hull replaced? Well, back there on that ledge, I had this little issue where I had a leak, and it leaked and it leaked and it leaked. And overall, I sent this thing back to the factory 5 times, and I think it went back to dealers 3 or 4 times. So probably 2 weeks at the dealers every time it went, and 4 to 5 weeks every time it went back to the factory. So that was a significant amount of time. So what was going on? Well, it ended up being that there was a leak, that the motor bolts weren't sealed correctly, and they were leaking, and it was pouring in. And it all started with just kind of a little bit of it would seep in, and then it just kind of gradually got worse and worse. So it went back to the dealer, and the dealer tried to silicone some stuff up, and they worked on it, and then it went back to the factory, and then it went back to the factory. And then one time when it came back from the factory, I opened up that rear compartment back there, and it was a complete mess. All the wires were corroded, the battery terminals were corroded. It was just, the carpet was coming undone in places. So I didn't even take it home that day. I just left it with the dealer, and they put it on the truck the next week, and it went back to Vexus for another 4 to 5 weeks. So anyways, this goes on and off for the first 1.5 years. And then at one point in that, they said, well, we're going to replace the hull, which they replaced the hull. And you'd think that would have fixed it. Well, no, that didn't fix it. Well, it was fixed for about 2 or 3 trips, and then it started leaking again. And it just kept going and went back to the factory again. And so anyways, the last time they took it, I got it back in November of 24. So it's May of 25 now. So I've had it for November, December, January, February, March, April, May. I've had it 7 months now, and I've had it out several times, and we haven't had any leaking so far. So I'm going to assume that it's been fixed, but you know, it's one of those things. Is it going to start leaking again or not? But anyways, I hope it doesn't. I think they got it fixed. It sure seems to be fixed. So that's what's going on. And it sure has been a headache, because I've been out with my boat that first 1.5 years. I probably was out of it for probably 3/4 of it. Half the time I was out of my boat. So basically it would go to the factory for 4 or 5 weeks. It'd come back, I'd have it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it'd start leaking, and then it would go back. And this just went on for 1.5 years. It was really frustrating. I really wish Vexus would have just bought the boat back and we would have parted ways, but they wanted to keep working on it. And I'll give them that. They did keep at it, and they did try to fix it, and I think they finally got it fixed. And I've had a few other minor little things. I had a speedometer that was what the water was squirting out of the back of it, and so they replaced that. I had a seat that come undone from the frame, so they fixed that. They sent me some paint. There's been some little chips. Every time it comes back from the factory, it seems like there was a new scratch in it. So they did send me some paint to kind of help fix that stuff. What else? I'm probably leaving something else out. It's been just little things here and there that's gone on. I don't know. It's just been frustrating is all it's been. It's just frustrating. But overall, it's a decent boat. I don't have any, you know, the fishability of it, it's good. It will, it rides well. It rides good in some chop. I've not had it in like 4 or 5 footers or anything crazy like that. But you know, 1 to 2 footers, it'll get on top of that and just scoot on. It fishes well. It does blow around a little bit in the wind. but you know, it's an aluminum boat. It only drafts in about 12 inches of water, so you know, you can expect that. So one other little thing I had wrong with it, I had some carpet on the new hull start to come loose, so they sent me some glue, and I've glued all that stuff down. It was mainly in the boxes around the edges. Like these edges right here, along here, one of the boxes that was coming loose, so they sent me some glue, took care of that. So what else? I don't know. I mean, I like it. I just have reservations about it, and I guess anybody would if they'd been through all that. But I will say that Vexus, they've tried to fix it, and I think they finally come around and got it done right. So hopefully it's going to be a good boat. I mean, I like to fish out of it. It's stable. I don't have it. I like, you know, some boats, this boat's, it's pretty stable. You don't feel like you're going to flip out of it if somebody in the back steps somewhere. So I don't know. That's about it. The storage in it's pretty decent. I mean, for an aluminum boat, it's pretty good. It's probably the best storage of any aluminum boat out there. It doesn't have the storage that my Triton had. The boxes are very similar, like length and width. It's just the depth of them that you don't have even in the front box. The depth isn't there, so you lose a little bit out of that, but overall it's okay. I probably need to take some of the crap out of this boat. Overall, you know, it'll run 54, 55 miles an hour, maybe 56 on a good day. But with two people in here running 52, 53 pretty much all the time, no problem. But one thing that is good with this boat is you can get on plane at 19 to 20 miles an hour. If it's foggy or if it's at night or if there's a lot of debris on the water, being able to go that 19 or 20 miles an hour is really, really good. It's a definite plus for this boat. So I guess if I was going to rate this boat on a scale of, you know, 0 to 10, with 0 being the worst and 10 being the best, I'd probably give it about a 6 or I'd give it a 6. And that's mainly just because of all the aggravation that I've had out of it. If I hadn't had that, it'd probably be a 8 or a 9. If I hadn't had all that, probably an 8 or 9 if it hadn't been all that aggravation and things just the leaking and everything and going back to the factory. Without that, it's a good boat. Can't complain too much about anything else. If you're fishing timber or whatnot, you know, if you run up over a stump, it seems to come up over that pretty easy. It's a decent fishing boat, I will give it that. But anyways, I'm Rodney with eFishin. If you guys got any more questions or anything like that, put them down there in the comments. I'll try to answer them. Overall, like I said, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10, and that's where I'm at. Thanks for stopping by. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll catch y'all out here on the water next time. Maybe we'll catch some fish. Anyways, we're out.